Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Flameworking, another adventure in Boroland. Last week I was working with the tubing and I got a comment from Suzanne who was talking about building it up as a coil instead of using tubing. I thought that was really interesting because the one thing I've never done is make a bead off of the tube. So here's my tubing, and I've always made shards off of it or tiny vessels, but I've never made a bead off of it. So this is the perfect opportunity to not only give that a try, but also to play with a little bit of color finally. And I have a bit of sample color that I got like 20 years ago, maybe. This little bag. That's all I have. And it's from this company called Momkas or Momkas. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it, but I thought I would just dive in this bag and play around with a few colors. So that's what I'm doing. And with that said, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time in the dungeon. All right, so before we get started, I just wanted to remind everybody that this is not a demonstration. This is just my progress report to you guys about how I'm doing with the borosilicate and what I've been working on. So this is a coiled bead a coiled Boro bead. And I'm going to start by adding some glass on the tip of my little pipe here. And I'm just going to roll it out. And, I have so many years of the hot shop glass and blowing big vessels behind me that I kind of am using those skills too and hoping that they all work together. And I'm going to start out by just getting the coiling started. I don't want to close it too soon. I want kind of a medium to large size bead. So I'm just going to keep coiling, and I know that a lot of people can do a continuous coil or, a continuous, coil for a bead, any kind of coil. And I'm not so good at that. And so I'm just doing my best to swipe the color on and kind of twist it on and, get it on there, making sure that there's no holes in between any of the glass, any of the layers. And I'm trying to get a really even amount of glass too. It'll be a lot easier when I go to blow it out. And here I am at the end, just kind of starting to close it out. I like the size here. I think it's going to work out pretty well. I do want to make sure that where the glass and the stainless steel of the blowpipe meet, if you cool it too much, it might crack because, that metal is constricting a little bit quicker than the glass. And so do be careful and keep in mind, to keep that area warm if you decide to do something like this. But again, this is not a demonstration. Okay, so I'm just going to spend a little bit of time melting this all in and, trying to get a nice shape to just start to puff it up a little bit. I want to make sure this doesn't collapse while I add my color. And boy, it did take a long time to get to this point. I felt like it was about 10 minutes almost. And I'm really sorry about my shaking, you guys. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm just going to puff this up a little bit. Not a whole bunch because I want to add my color and then blow it out some more. And the colors that I grabbed out of the bag of Momkas Glass is this first one here is called Violet Melody. And I didn't get any violet out of it, but that's okay. It still looked cool. And I'm just coiling it down this whole bubble. And then I'm going to double that up with this other rod. And yeah, I probably should have, pulled the stringer first. But I was anxious and just wanted to, have fun playing with the glass. So I just did kind of a sloppy, quick job of adding some coils or adding some twists, whatever you want to call these lines. And I just want to make sure the color is put on there evenly as well. That'll make the blowing out a lot easier, I think. Okay, now before I do any blowing, I want to play around with this pattern a little bit. I want to give it a little bit of feathering. But first I want to make sure that the glass is melted in enough so that when I go to do the feathering, it doesn't interfere with how with the feathering process, I guess. All right, so a little bit more heating and smoothing down. It's not completely smooth here, but it's close enough, I think, to play around with the pattern. All right, so I am going to do this with just a Coiled Boro rod. And I noticed that you really have to be in the flame to make anything work with this glass. It's kind of, unless it's screaming hot, it's hard to work this out of the flame like you can with the soft glass. So here I am making sure that as I'm pulling the flame I'm working with the flame the whole time. Exactly where I'm pulling. So I'm moving everything in accordance with where I am in the flame. All right, a couple more times. I kept noticing that I wanted so badly to just, work this glass like soft glass. And, getting into the rhythm of working with the borosilicate, I kind of felt like it was good to stick with it for a little bit longer instead of switching right back to the soft glass. So I hope you guys enjoy this little excursion. Now here I am pulling the other side, but I'm only pulling from the center out. I didn't want to do kind of like a full back and forth zigzag here. I wanted some nice kind of, loop-de-loopy, kind of swags. All right, so that is that for the pattern. And now I'm just going to heat the bottom up and start pulling it out. I want to start getting all this kind of massive solid glass off of the end, and it'll be a lot easier for me to pull or to push a hole into it. So I'm going to pull that off, and that also kind of helped me to kind of find the center of the bottom again. And then rolling, heating, and smoothing down everything that I can, and just getting ready to blow this out. And I've done some practice blowing Boro out, not a whole bunch, but I do know that you got to get it hot and then some. And it's even as you can to blow it out. And with everything, the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. But it's certainly very different for me. So I'm trying to get this as hot as possible, and then kind of let the heat settle into it just a little bit before I blow it out. And looking at it from this angle, I see that I am definitely not on center while I'm blowing this out, because now I'm off at the bottom. And that's okay, because it's not a lot. And, I always told my students that were worried about their beads being off center. I would always tell them, well, nobody's going to put it on a lazy Susan and turn it around and tell you that it's off center. And that's just kind of how it is. And it's art. So, it is how it is when it turns out. Anyway, I wanted to blow that out a little bit more. And now I am back to, kind of feeling like, ooh, I kind of went a little bit too far off center. So I want to punty that bottom up. And also I wanted to change the shape of this bead from just a little ball or a sphere to something a little bit more elongated and tapered on the sides. So I'm just going to start to, after I punty up, I want to start to heat up just that 1/2 end. And I'm just trying to get everything as evenly hot as I can. And I noticed that I didn't really weld on that Boro punty very well. It's just wanting to come right off. So I'm just going to give it a second and make sure everything is nice and warm. And then I'm just going to kind of pull that off and add another punty here in a second. But yeah, I wasn't too happy with that, but it allowed me to kind of taper everything out and then pull a little bit more of that glass off and thin it out even more. All right, now I feel like I'm back on track here. Okay, so I'm not sure why I decided to use this sloppy punty for this job, but I did. And I'm going to re-punty there and start to taper out the other side. I just want to match the same taper and see how that goes. I'm going to puff it up a little bit here. And I'm not trying to be too precise here. I am more worried about, like, you know, going through the motions of making something decent than making like a masterpiece. Okay, so here, after I've tapered that out, I'm going to go ahead and pull off my glass punty end. And then we're going to put the hole in. So I have my tungsten pick, and I'm going to get the pick itself red hot and then push it very gently through the Boro, and I'll twist it around. I'll twist it around a little bit in the flame, and if you are not careful, your tool can heat up very quickly, so you might want to have 2 tungsten picks on hand. But there's my little opening there, and I was really happy to see that. It's a little off on the top, but you know, that's okay. I'm just going to go ahead and try to smooth things down and make a nice shape and then move on. Okay, so I was wondering, you know, in my head, how am I going to do this? And I decided that I would try to punty up the hole. So I have a little punty here, and I'm just going to add it to the very side of the hole. I don't want to cover it up or anything. I just want to grab the edge, and I'm kind of make sure it's out of the way. I kind of pull it up and over the hole a little bit to get it on center with the blowpipe, if that makes any sense. All right, so now I am going to go ahead and take this side off, and I like to really get a lot of heat in the metal area itself, and that kind of helps to pull out again and thin out the glass on that side. And I'll just grab a little extra as I cast away. And, you know, at this point I was a little mortified at what I was seeing, but, you know, I kind of, you know, things have to sometimes be ugly before they can get pretty. So I was like, all right, let me thin this out a little bit more and just shape it up. Because at this point, you know, I can't blow into it anymore. And all I can do is shape it up and cross my fingers. All right, so at this point, once I'm done, I'm going to just pull a little bit more glass off the end. The thickness, it's easier to put this hole into the end when it's a thinner amount of glass. So I kind of felt like I needed some help. I'm so shaky this day, you guys. So I needed a little bit of help there to brace myself. So I am again heating up the tungsten pick and boring the hole right into the glass. And once it's through the glass and moving, I kind of go back into the flame here and open it up just a little bit and smooth that opening out. Give it a little bit. It's, you know, you really got to heat this stuff up so much, but I was worried about overheating at the end here and it wrinkling or something. So I kind of felt like this was looking good. Like I'm Like, okay, I feel good about this, guys. So I'm gonna just shape up the edge a little bit, and we're done. I am going to just give it a little bit of heat in the back of the flame to kind of even the heat out overall. And put this in the oven. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It's so much fun working with this glass. It's a lot easier to continue working with it too instead of switching back and forth. So we'll see what happens next week. Anyway, I got my little holders there, and I'm going to pop that off. Give it a little bit of heat on the opening, and we're done. I'll try to hold it steady here for you in a second. All right, you guys. Have a great week, and I will see you next time.